Hello and welcome back to the weekend review. Unfortunately, from a Manchester United perspective, it was one to forget. However, there was a lot of action in the Premier League this weekend, which we do need to go over with today's guests. And we'll be getting the latest on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's role at Manchester United. Thanks to reporter Graham Bailey, who this morning has already been busy on 90-minute football, talking about Sir Alex Ferguson's influence at board level. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the Premier League's games this weekend. We're going to talk about Manchester United, Manchester City, just after this. Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United. Wow, a tough weekend for me and you, Connor. Thank you for jumping on with me, mate. Hello to Graham, my sidekick now on these shows. I'm not doing these shows with you, Graham, even though you are giving me a lot of stick after Manchester United games at the moment, but you are forgiven. Thank you guys for getting involved with the show today. Get in the live chat. Make sure you like and subscribe. Graham, I'm going to come over to you first because you put up a very interesting report on 90-minute football this morning. Also, Sky Sports reporting that Manchester United are not looking to make a change this international break. Any chance you could please elaborate on that, and also have a little say on what you put on 90-minute football as well around Sir Alex Ferguson's influence?
Yeah, there's no inclination, no indication either from United as it stands that they are looking to change things ahead of the Watford game. I'm sure that will come as desperately sad news to many United fans listening and watching. Yeah, I did a piece this morning on 90 Min about Sir Alex Ferguson's involvement, generally at United, but obviously it's around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the moment. There's a lot of people within the club, from director level, coaches, players who are leaning on Sir Alex at the moment. They're not venting. They're not just going to slag Ole off, but they're putting forward their concerns. He is doing an admirable job, from what I understand, of he's not trying to pacify them, but he is putting forward to the Glazers, Avram and Joel, who will be making this decision. He's acting as a go-between. He's a lot busier than what I think he thought he would be. And from what someone told me, he's probably in more meetings now than when he was manager. It's, and I know a lot of United fans I've seen on Twitter have had a reaction where they don't think Sir Alex should be anywhere near any of this or involved. Personally, from an outside point of view, I think, you got the greatest manager in English football history there. You have to respect that opinion. And I think the Glazers are doing the right thing. They are talking with him. They're all involved in this. And I think that is the thing. They're all committed to Ole. They're all involved in that new contract. They're all of the opinion that would work. And so they're all hurting as well. They really are hurting, including Sir Alex. And, he sees it as maybe he was part of the problem in getting Ole the job. So he wants to be part of the solution as well. But as it stands, there isn't any inclination that they will be changing. And as I do say towards the end of the article, part of the problem is that there's no one standing out from the crowd. There's no candidate there. There isn't, Conte, even though he was there, he was never really, it was very much 50-50 from what I was reading in social media among the fans. Zidane's available, but I don't think any United fan is really desperate for him to come in. And as I texted, I think, before or after the game on Saturday, they just need, for me, this solution. It looks easy from the outside. You get rid of Ole and you just go cap in hand to Pochettino and say, please come in now. He's clearly not too happy in Paris. But whether that deal can be done now, it's going to be very difficult. Or a deal for someone similar to him.
You mentioned there Sir Alex's influence, but how much of a game changer is the fact that Ed Woodward's also leaving in the next 6 weeks, we assume at the moment? He doesn't want that to happen in the last part of his, tenure at the club in the role he's in, does he?
He doesn't. I don't think I really have a bearing on things. Rich Allen's coming in, who I've always seen criticism of him. He hasn't even stepped into the job yet. I don't think that'll have a bearing on anything, Ben. I think the whole thing was, though, he's just signed a new contract, Ole. Nobody who did that deal for Ole, nobody involved, Sir Alex, the Glazers, the hierarchy, the coaches, but no one thought United would be in this situation. Nobody thought by the start of November, it's more likely you got relegated than win the title. And I'm not taking the mick. That is more likely. And we had this last year. We had it again. I'm not wise in hindsight, as you know, Ben. I've said this all along. The one thing wrong at this club is you've got a world class squad. You know, Glazers are they world class owners? A lot of people are arguing out, but look what they did in the summer in terms of your transfers. Your manager's the problem. It's standing out like a sore thumb, and I think they're starting to come around to the idea. But yeah, you won't. I think they're desperate to give him it till the end of the season. Whether he can last that long, I just don't know. I don't. By looking your face, Connor, in your faces, I know that isn't going to go down well. But
we'll get into this, Graham, because I think there's so much to speak about, especially when it comes to other sides' form around us and some surprise packages this year. And I think if there wasn't that, potentially our faces wouldn't be as sour as they are now. You're saying what you're saying. Thank you for sharing everything with us, by the way. We really appreciate it all the time, Graham. Thank you so much. I'm going to just quickly go over to some comments, and then we'll get your thoughts, Connor, on what Graham's just said. Akil says, Sir Alex Sport Jemba said Phil Jones could be the next Duncan Edwards. Appointed Moyes, even the great Sir Alex Ferguson can be wrong at times. He needs to stay out of this. Ben says, I've decided I definitely do not want the manager to be sacked at the moment. I've been so invested in the process and the progress we've made over the last 2 years. The players have been woeful. Strawberry Milkshake, Goat, Kama is with us as well, all in the live chat. Guys, if you're watching anywhere but on YouTube, come over to the live chat. If you're watching on YouTube right now, log in with your account and come to the live chat, have your say, and we will chat and talk about your views. Connor, what do you make of what Graham's just said? So Alex, obviously keeping the face at board level. Sky Sports, Graham, as mentioned there, looks like Ollie's set to stay this international break. What's your reaction?
I mean, Sir Alex is on the board, right? So you have a board above a manager to make decisions and have influence. That's the whole point of having a hierarchy structure. You could argue the structure's not great around United, but that's why you have people above manager and you have people above, with the owners and so on. So I'm not surprised he's involved. Of course, he's going to be. But I just feel the longer this goes on, there's a couple of things. One, it's ruining Ollie's reputation because now people are starting to go after the player rather than the manager. So it's ruining his reputation amongst the fan base. It's evident now, in my opinion, that we are not going to. We might beat Watford, and then we've got Chelsea straight after, I think. So, we could be out of the top 4 race by the mid-December and out of the Champions League by mid-December. Because if we don't beat Villarreal away, we're in trouble. Now, I get the hesitancy. They don't want to sack him now. The payout, as Graham just said, he just signed a new contract. There's going to be a payout. He's not going to walk. And to be fair, why should he? He's a United fan in his dream job. He's not going to walk, is he? And you've got to have some level of self-belief to get to where he is in his career. So he's not going to walk. I really wanted to see today a mutual kind of consent thing come out from United saying we've mutually agreed Ollie will walk. We'll look for a new manager. The one thing I will say, though, I don't want Ollie to be sacked and then we just get Carrick or Fletcher in for a few games. That's just pointless. We may as well keep Ollie then if that's going to be the case. And I think this is the big problem. Everyone's I think at the moment, people just want anyone but Ollie, and that's the issue. Everyone, there's Ten Hag, there's Rodgers, there's Zidane, Pochettino, there was Conte. You could list off about 20 managers. Everyone's got their own views on who they want. I think people just want anyone but Ollie now because saw what happened against Liverpool. And it's not just the recent results. This has been happening all season, if we're being totally honest. We haven't played well since the start of the season. Even the games we've won, Leeds and Newcastle comfortably, we didn't play well in those either. So I'm disappointed really in the club because one, it's not nice to see what's happening to Ollie because it's almost like he's being hung out to dry because you see every post that it's not be all and end all, but you see every post United are putting on, you're seeing the replies and all these kind of things. I don't know how it can get much worse. If we're not careful, we could seriously fall away, as you just mentioned there about the teams that are on form that we weren't really looking at this year. You likes of West Ham, Leicester haven't hit form yet. If they start hitting form, they could drop. Arsenal are now ahead of us. We were bantering them a few weeks ago. We're now below them. We're in serious trouble. I don't know what the board are looking at. They're probably looking at it going, we're not that far away from top 4 still because somehow we're not. We are still there or thereabouts, but I get their hesitancy to sack him. Like I said, the payout and trust in the process and all these kind of things, and they don't want to repeat probably of what's happened in the past with the constant cycle of managers. We're trying not to be that club, but it comes a point where, and me, Ben, I've spoken on this channel for months. I'll never call for a manager sacking because I want us to be different. Chelsea have kind of screwed this model of sacking a manager wins you trophies because it works for them. I mean, go ask Watford; it doesn't work for them, does it? So it doesn't always work. But I'm a bit sick and tired of this, if I'm being honest, because we're going into every game now, going with the inevitability of him being sacked, and it's like I'd rather it just be over now and let's move on and try and focus on the football, because it doesn't seem like we can focus on the football at the minute. We're too busy focusing on Ollie.
I think with many Reds and especially those match going Reds or plenty with, so to speak, a more calmer head on, with Ollie in the past, there has still always been something to hold on to. You know, people always mention his man management, or you can see the attacking intent, or you can see where we lose games, or you can see individual. You can make excuses. I think ultimately the position we're all in now is there's no longer any excuses for what's actually happening on the pitch or off the pitch. The buck stops with the manager. The buck stops with that something needs to change. And I think that's the issue. No one can make excuses for what's currently going on. And something needs to happen. You can't fire 11 players, but you can change your coaching staff and your manager. And I think a decision has to be made somewhere. But on that, Graham, talking about the manager, so let's do the weekend review. Let's just go back and painfully recap the game slightly. I just can't believe... this isn't even a question, but I'll leave it with you. I can't believe that as a Manchester derby. I really can't.
Yeah, I was on a pre-match podcast on Friday, and I was a little bit tongue in cheek when I tipped a 5-0 to City, and I said on the show that this could be any score they want. It's up to City what they want it to be, and I said it was a little bit tongue in cheek. I said it won't even be a contest, etc., etc., and it was a bit tongue in cheek. I was expecting some sort of reaction. And I think this is the real concerning thing about Ollie. From the Leicester game onwards, he has not learned a single lesson. That Tottenham game, forget about that. They were a shambles of a team who, even my Middlesbrough would have beaten Spurs that day. They were terrible. Take that game away, Leicester, and then these two back-to-back home games. And I said Graham Souness in the studio, who man I was named after, so always a big up to Graham Souness. He said it right. There's been the worst 2 consecutive games in our lifetime at Old Trafford against your 2 biggest rivals, which they are now. City are a huge rival. Although whether Liverpool and City see you as a rival anymore, that is a worrying thing. You're nearer to Leeds in many ways. It's so disappointing. It was embarrassing. And I agree with, I can't remember who said it in the studio on Sky. I thought that was more worrying than the Liverpool game. In a lot of ways, they sucker punched you, whatever. City it was like a training game, wasn't it? It was, the City kit man must have been delighted. He probably only had to wash about 3 kits, 3 pairs of socks, because the rest of them weren't dirty. He didn't need to be.
Roy Keane made the point, didn't he? Phil Foden should have been drained, should have been knackered at the end of that game after a derby, been through the mill, and he wasn't.
But how much room? Has Kevin De Bruyne had more room in a competitive game this calendar year? What is Ollie thinking? You've got McTominay and Fred there, who, at the very least, right, Fred, go man Matt De Bruyne. Scott, go man Mark Foden. Let's take 2 of the keys out of this. Yeah, they're beating you anyway, but or Scott, I want you to go through Foden in the first 10 minutes, so at least he's going to be limping for 5 of them. Do something. And as Roy Keane alluded to, yeah, it's a derby. Let Phil Foden know he's in a derby. And I'm not saying you should go on the field to hurt players, but let De Bruyne know he's playing against Manchester United. Let him know. No dangers of any. I said, let alone stud marks. There wouldn't have been any grass marks on their socks. It's ridiculous. And I tell you what, one stat. I'm not rubbing it into either of you. I think it was Duncan Alexander, the brilliant Opta guy, who said that it's now a fact that over 20% of all Manchester United's Premier League defeats in their history have come under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That blew my mind. And in comparison, it's way low on the other managers anyway.
Is that total defeats or home defeats? I thought that was home defeats.
Yeah, it's home defeats.
But it's even more staggering.
20%, yeah. But yeah, obviously, guys, yeah, I just think it was the game was never in doubt. But there's ways of getting beat, isn't there? There's ways of getting beat, and considering you're playing 2 holding midfielders like that, and I would question McTominay as well. I'd like to say, you see McTominay getting stuck in and stuff. It's like, has Ollie told you to stay on your feet for 90 minutes? Where was the challenge? Where did you make a challenge? You're a Man United fan. He's come through the system. Where was the aggressive challenge? There was no challenges there to get the fans up, get them off the feet. Obviously, the full backs, as I joke with you, Ben, your delusion that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is anything but a top-level Championship fullback keeps on getting to you. But his performance alone was just totally woeful. If you're paying £40 million for a fullback, you shouldn't have. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer shouldn't have to dictate to him how to close the man down. He shouldn't be. This is a guy who I said, Ben, you think is one of the best defensive fullbacks in Europe. Great. He showed you on Saturday why he's nowhere near that level.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in good form, but neither's the rest of the team. I think I've seen enough from him to get excited about him, and I think all of us have had the conversation last season about where he just needs to improve his game to be up at the best level. But I also think that we saw an anomaly of a season from Trent, by the looks of it, which probably brought him into that conversation. I also think there's a real lack of defensive fullback talent at the moment as well, which is maybe
United, not in England, because I've got 8 names here of English right backs who I would have before Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
But even if you name them, I bet we only get to the top 2, and then we say the rest aren't Manchester United quality.
Okay, we'll have a little Okay. I've just thought of the 9th one actually. Okay, so Kyle Walker, Man United standard, clearly. Kieran Trippier, Man United quality.
He's not Premier League though, isn't he? Oh, English.
English, yeah.
Yeah, English. Again, Kieran Trippier, by the way. Again, this isn't just me. When Kieran Trippier was linked with Manchester United, it was linked with Manchester United, and maybe not you, but mostly everyone was talking about him being the backup option to push Wan-Bissaka. Now, you might think that's rubbish, but that was the narrative at the time, if you remember right.
But from what I understand, he probably would have been ahead of Wan-Bissaka, but he would cover left back as well. That's why they really wanted him, because he could cover both sides as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold, massively ahead, light years ahead. Livramento at Southampton right now is much better player than Trent Alexander-Arnold.
We're going on form, aren't we now?
Reece James, I would have Livramento all day long. Look what he offered. Look what he's been amazing since he went there. Terrific player.
But again, Graham, sorry, on Livramento again, just to come back at you on that, he's been at Southampton for 3 months.
Yeah, you can see football. So I'll come from. I never rated Wan-Bissaka. I thought it was a ridiculous price to pay anyway. But Lamptey at Brighton.
I mean, Lamptey's a really good fullback. He's someone that should definitely be in the equation, 100%. I mean,
Reece James,
Reece James
shouldn't even be in this conversation along with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's that much better.
I'll go Reece James. Yeah, I'll agree.
Max Aarons, I prefer to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Ben Johnson at West Ham, all better defenders, better going forward.
I'm expected to hear Craig Dawson in a minute.
If Manchester United sign him tomorrow, right, or signed him in the summer,
which one?
Everyone would have turned around at Johnson, would have turned around and gone, why the hell have United signed him?
But then when you said, because we've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, they'd all go, yeah, fair enough.
no, but they wouldn't. That's the point.
Anyway, I said we're getting Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's not, as you said, but he's not the only problem. He's just a. I think the bigger problem. I say it's a right back. Right back's never.
You know what I think the biggest
central midfield clearly.
Biggest issue for me is left back at the moment and the left side of that defence by a country mile for me. I don't get it. Connor, I'll come to you on this. I don't get it. Maguire and Shaw. I don't understand it. I really. People keep talking about the Euros hangover, but I've never seen 2 more amateur defenders playing for Manchester United, and these are 2 very good footballers. I don't get it. I don't even know what my question is, Connor. I don't get it.
I mean, Shaw is showing. People don't really believe. I mean, you can go back to my tweets 2 years ago. I didn't particularly rate Shaw when he came back a couple of years ago. Now he had a really good year last year. Was England's player of the tournament in the Euros. So he's not a bad player. But he's going back to the tendencies that I criticised him for 2 years ago. His positional and spatial awareness is atrocious. That second goal was just... I've never seen defending like that. Luke Shaw literally is looking behind. He sees Bernardo Silva. I don't know what he's thinking. You can say De Gea should have saved it. Maybe he should have, straight at him at the near post. But Luke Shaw and Maguire there, one of you's got to clear that. Take ownership of the ball. Kick it into the second tier of the Stretford end. Do something. And And what my issue is, this is happening far too often. If that was a one-off, you go, right, okay, it's an individual mistake. It happens in games. You can think of 3 or 4 occasions that's happening per game. That's what's worrying. Now, I said this on a show the other day. There's a difference between a bad player and bad form. They're in bad form. They're not bad players. You don't fluke. You can fluke a couple of games to show you're a good player. You can't fluke a whole season. Maguire and Shaw last year were brilliant. And same in the Euros. So what's happening now, I've got no idea. Is it a combination? I mean, Stu raised the point yesterday that is it an issue with the goalkeeper? Now, we saw Henderson for a lot of last season commanding that back 4, and we look quite steady in defence. As good as De Gea has been, is that an issue for the back line again? That they don't trust De Gea behind him?
Do you know what? I heard that yesterday, and Stu talking about this yesterday, and the thing that came straight to my head, do you remember Mourinho's comments? And please, this isn't me trying to say that Mourinho was right, but just hear me out here. Do you remember Mourinho's comments after that game where he turned around and said, Luke Shaw played really well today, but he needs to not play with my head. I was telling him everything he needed to do. Then, if we rewind, Harry Maguire done an interview, can't remember what it was, 4 or 6 weeks ago, where he said that him and Shaw get on so well because they're always in communication. Now, I wonder if where Shaw's form was so good last season, people stopped telling him what to do so much, getting him to get on with it. And this is a performance because it is him positionally. It's awful. Even that goal, I can't remember which one it was, but the one midweek at Atalanta, even if Maguire came back on side, Shaw was still playing him on. I'm wondering here, and I've always had an issue with Harry Maguire. I feel like he overcompensates for the players around him instead of playing his own game. And it always bugs me. He's done it all the time with Lindelof. Lindelof. I wonder if I don't know. I suppose when you're trying to hunt for answers to questions here, you've got to look at every single possibility because you're right. These guys haven't shown to be extremely bad players, and at the moment they're playing like it. So.
Yeah. You've hit the nail. It's communication. You can see it with they're not errors, they're not missing the ball as such. They're not doing it's positional play and it's player spatial awareness that's the problem, and that's communication. Now that's what's bugging me because even when Varane came, like I said, even the games earlier in the year, Leeds, Newcastle, Southampton, Wolves, we were making these mistakes. We were just getting away with it. So this is nothing new. So this has started since the first game of the season. Now. How do you fix it? Well, just start working as a team. And this isn't just the defense, by the way. It's just more noticeable in defense. We're not a team. I don't know. There's a difference between, I've said this a few months ago, there's a difference between just shouting at players on the pitch like Bruno does. Now, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not I'm not having a go at Bruno here. And I'm doing this because he's the most vocal on the pitch. So you can see. There's a difference between screaming at players and actually giving players intelligent information. That's the difference. You can be like Bruno and just screaming this, do this. And I think someone picked up on commentary about Bruno. He needs to look at his own game before he starts shouting at other people, giving the ball away. And I think this is what our issue is with the back line sometimes. You've got a lot of people just shouting, across the back line. But are they giving helpful instructions? All Maguire or Lindelof, whoever was in that back three needs to say to Shaw, he's behind you. And, well, Shaw should know he's there, but I don't know. I personally just think it's a communication error, but a communication issue. But it's not just the back line; it's the whole team.
There's some interesting points being put in the live chat. People also discussing how many points we get out of our next 4 Premier League games against Watford, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Palace. And there's some good discussion going on in the live chat. So get involved, guys. Like the video. If you're watching back later on, comment how many points do we get from our next 4 Premier League games against Watford, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Palace? Because again, they might not be the best teams, but they are set up well. And even Ranieri's Watford the other day against Arsenal looked like a more solid unit than we do. He's only been there a couple of weeks. Hello to Jessica, who's in the live chat. Akil's still in there as well. Mabuso's in there discussing the points as well. And hello to Samrat, who says, would have conceded 6 goals without De Gea saves. But again, half of those saves that he made, should he have been needed to make those saves if our defence and midfield wasn't such a calamity? I never think you can judge a goalkeeper just on his saving stats alone. I think you've got to look at the position of play and where those shots have been hit from to really determine, how much at fault is the goalkeeper versus the defender, and especially for the goals as well. I still think the 3 or 4 goals in the last 4 or 5 games, De Gea should have done better as well. So again, you can't always count on your defender to save you. As a team, you need to be set up better, and your players need to be playing better as well. And hello to Tyrone, who's in the live chat. Graham, before we move on, do you want to make any more points on what's just been discussed? Because I saw a few facial expressions from you. Look, we're United fans. We're trying to make sense of this, mate. It's difficult football, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't know what difficulty is. Come down to Championship, and you know what difficulty is. Yeah, it's it's bad when you're wanting Dean Henderson back. That's how I'm thinking, really. It's one of those where defense, it's all stemming from. I think it's all stemming from, Fred and McTominay in front of that back four. Where and as Connor said, it's now not they're all looking after themselves. They're not thinking about the team. It seems, and it's that back. There's no confidence in any of them, really. And I was thinking back to the Shaw thing, and we mentioned Kieran Trippier, and they wanted a player who could play both sides. Interestingly, they were going for someone as high quality as that, because someone like Trippier, if he got in the team, he would stay there. So it does make you wonder if United were concerned about Shaw at an earlier point, because if Kieran Trippier came in, got in at left back, he could arguably stay there. So it does make you think they were possibly looking at that avenue. Obviously, and the same with the right back. I would point to, they were looking at James Tavernier at one point, and a few others. They were looking at someone who might come in for 18 months and have for the first team, and then, as you said, Ben, possibly the hope that in 18 months' time, Wan-Bissaka might be a Premier League player. So yeah, it's one of the. But I think the centre midfield thing needs to be resolved. But it all stems from a manager. They're not organised. They're not, And a lot of people have said, yeah, it's all very well parking those two midfielders there and everywhere. There's no inclination to close down. There's no system. And I think that's where, alluding to in the story before, so where some players are maybe coming out now, and they're just not set up to win any game against these top teams. And I think that's a huge worry that the playing staff have got. And obviously Ronaldo, he's not mourning coming in, but Ronaldo knows what he's saying. He knows what he's probably heard the likes of Pogba in the background, who have never been a fan of Ollie in terms of coaching. And Paul Pogba's not clever as a book, and he's not wise in hindsight. He knew this from the first few sessions of Ollie, that he wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, isn't it? Jessica's, we're talking about midfielders in the live chat now. Tyrone talking about McTominay, and Ben talking about Fred and McTominay. Jessica, we need to play Donny van der Beek. We need to start with McTominay. I don't. Where's Matic? Where's Matic in all of this? Where is he? That's what you need. You need someone calm and composed to sit in the midfield in these big games. Where is he? And everyone keeps talking about 4-3-3. You name 3 midfielders that make that midfield more balanced in that formation. Doesn't happen. You'd have to drop Pogba. You'd have to drop Bruno. Then I'll
tell you what, Ben, about his forthcoming games, the one player who will be licking his lips and praying to God that Fred and McTominay are playing is Conor Gallagher. If Conor Gallagher is playing against them two, you won't be getting any points off Palace.
Yeah, you spoke to him, didn't you? Spoke about him the other day. Well, look, let's start off by chatting about two of the teams that have lost their managers. And actually, Graham, I'm going to start with you on this. Villa lost 1-0 to Southampton on Friday. We saw Norwich pick up 3 points against Brentford, but not enough for Daniel Farke to keep his job. Obviously, Dean Smith gone as well. Just quickly, they're the only 2 teams in the league who are in worse form than United at the moment, which shows how bad it is for us. But how much better do you expect Villa to get now that Dean Smith's gone? And in terms of Norwich, they had to do it, didn't they? They have to try something new to stay in the league this season.
I think. See, from an outside, I haven't seen Villa an awful lot. I've seen them a handful of times, probably like yourselves as well. And it seemed a little bit harsh, but Villa fans weren't happy. They saw it coming. So 5 defeats in a row, I think it was, he had to go. The Villa team's full of excellent players. And it's not dissimilar to United's situation, where suddenly Mings and Konsa were great last season. Suddenly most of that and Target and Cash are very good. Their backline seems to have forgotten how to defend as well. They've gone absolute to pot. It's an interesting squad they've got there, Villa. I don't think they're going down. I think it'll be an interesting appointment. See Roberto Martinez and Steven Gerrard strongly linked. I think one of those two will suit that job. Norwich is an interesting one. I don't know what they want. Do they think they can stay up? I'm not sure they can. It'll be an interesting one. Frank Lampard, he would link John Terry. I don't know. I don't necessarily see those two going in there. It's hard to know what Norwich want to do. They've been happy yo-yoing, but I think they're Farke's team selection this season has been a little bit bewildering. He hasn't used Cantwell much, and he dropped Billy Gilmore. And, no matter on form, them two should be in Norwich's starting 11 without a shadow of a doubt. And yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one. That one, I'm not sure where I see that going. I think Villa are down. Villa are definitely down, but yeah, and obviously we've got Eddie Howe being confirmed as well. So yeah, 7 managers in English football. Was it 8 managers in 1 week? Was it 7, 8? 7. And I think that was a record. It hasn't been confirmed, but 7 managers lost their jobs in the last week, which is amazing, really.
It's bonkers, isn't it? Connor, your reaction to farking off? I've been waiting to use that all weekend. And Dean Smith.
I mean, it's the Norwich one. I'm not surprised, but it's just weird timing because they finally won a game. I think that's what's strange. They've been going on this losing run, and I said this weeks ago. I don't count Norwich as a Premier League side because I'm sick of them coming up and then just being bottom of the league, just easy to beat every week. And they finally win a game, and then that's when they decide to sack him. That's what I think's weird. I think it's weird, isn't it? Because when they go down, they dominate the Championship and come straight back up. So they're kind of not good enough for the Premier League, but too good for the Championship. They're in a weird situation. So yeah, I think that was probably overdue. I think he probably is a good manager, but you can't keep going up and down, up and down. I think they'd like some stability in the Premier League, and with the squad they've got, I still don't think they've got enough anyway to stay up, which is a shame for the likes of Brandon Williams, obviously on loan down there, but I'm sure he's getting some good experience, and like Graham said, he's been leaving out some key players. But yeah, I think that one's, I'm not really surprised that it was more the timing that was surprising. As for Villa, that one did surprise me. Now, I know they're on a bad run of games. I think they've lost all 5, haven't they, since they beat us at Old Trafford. Now, that squad is better than they're playing. We were all hyping them up in the summer with the signings they made. Obviously, moved Jack Grealish on and then brought in 3 brilliant players in Buendia, Bailey, and Danny Ings. So you're thinking, right, okay, this squad is good. You're looking at the defense. I mean, you're looking at half the team. I know this is says a lot about where we are at the minute, but we were looking at their midfield going, yeah, he'd go into our team, and so on and so on. That team is below where it needs to be right now. And that is where you look at the manager. And this is why I think a lot of people have got their beer in their bonnet about Ollie, because we're underperforming to where the team is. Villa are another team that are underperforming to where the team is, and they're sacking their manager, whereas we're still stuck kind of going round in circles. So, yeah, I think the Dean Smith one was more surprising because it's just gone horribly wrong from ever since, they beat us at Old Trafford and they looked good. They didn't just beat us at Old Trafford and got away with it. They dominated us in that game. I know it's not really an achievement this year the way we're playing, but you look at their team, with Watkins, Buendia, their back line's good with Matty Cash and Target at fullback as well. I don't think they'll go down. I don't know who would come in, but they've certainly got a good enough team to at least be in the top half or there and thereabouts anyway.
It's a good job for any manager that's looking to make the leap into the Premier League or up the Premier League clubs and potentially onto a bigger job, potentially. Maybe. It's a good warm-up. With that game, by the way, Villa Southampton, obviously Southampton got the win. Hassan Hutel was under massive pressure a few weeks back. That's unbeaten in 4 now, 3 wins and a draw. He's very much turned it around there. Great manager as well when he gets going. Hassan Hutel knows how to set a team up. Always takes him a little while though, by the looks of it, if you look historically. And Brentford shocked that they got the defeat that they lost at home to Norwich after a great start of the season from them. One thing to note for Manchester United fans is I saw a couple of tweets. I won't go into it because I didn't watch the game, but apparently Brandon Williams very good against Brentford, especially defensively. Shock horror, good defensive left back under United's ranks, but performing at Norwich at the moment. So very, very interesting indeed. Shock result of the weekend. A couple of contenders. You could maybe go what happened at the London Stadium with West Ham and Liverpool, but I'm going to say what happened at Stamford Bridge, Graham. Chelsea won, Burnley won in a game that Chelsea absolutely dominated, but Dyche got the point.
Yeah, it's the way Chelsea play. And I was at Newcastle to see them last week, or the week before, sorry. And they do is dominate. They like to dominate. They don't tend to put teams to bed 5 or 6-0. And if you are only 1 goal up at times, you've always got this thing will happen. I don't think it's panic stations by any stretch. Obviously, Lukaku's not there. there's quite a few injuries for Chelsea. But yeah, I think Burnley have been one of those teams where obviously the table never lies, but I think Burnley have been a bit better than the table suggests. I think they've pushed people very close. They haven't quite beaten some of the teams around them, but Maxwell Cornet coming in, looking to be one of the signs of the summer. A lot of those teams looked but didn't fancy him, but they're regretting that now. Yeah, I'd agree with you. Although I still think West Ham. No, it's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah, one of those them two losing points was a fantastic performance as well, and maybe you could have thrown City in there, but City's opposition wasn't great.
Chelsea had 25 shots in that game, by the way. Their most in a Premier League home game they failed to win since August 2015, which was against Crystal Palace. They lost that one 2-1. Interesting, only 4 on target out of those 25 as well. Missing Lukaku, maybe. Graham hit on it there, Connor. London Stadium. Moyes' West Ham army. Moyes at the wheel. I tell you what, he is getting a tune out those West Ham players, isn't he?
Yeah, it was quite. We were listening to it on the way back from the women's game yesterday, and obviously celebrate. It was the only thing we could celebrate all weekend, to be honest. driving back from London. So I watched the highlights when I got home, and the slight issue I've got, and I'll start with the negative on it. And this is what I retweeted the other week, that if David Moyes had never managed United before, everyone would be touting him as the favourite to United job right now because of the job he's doing at West Ham currently. He's just getting the best out of what he's got. And that's what managers are there to do. They're supposed to get the best out of the players that they have in the squad. And you're looking at that back line. It's nothing incredibly special. I know they conceded 2 goals, but they were pretty solid for a lot of that game. Johnson, Zuma, Bonner, I know he went off early on, and Creswell. That's not a world-beating back four. But because of the manager and the style that Moyes has put in, it works. And this is what I keep saying about United. You don't need 11 world-class players in every position. You need a team that works together. And that's what West Ham have got. I thought Bowen was unbelievable yesterday. Those two on the wings yesterday, Bowen and Ben Rama, unbelievable. And I think it says a lot that West Ham scored 3 and Antonio is not involved in anything of them. Just shows the kind of wealth of attacking options they've got. 4-hour's got on the score sheet. Bowen was brilliant. Ben Rama, Antonio, and that's not even mentioning, some of the players, that came off the bench. Lanzini didn't even get a look in. Yarmolenko's injured at the moment. They've just got a good squad. They remind me of Leicester a couple of years ago. They're a well-drilled attacking team. And from a United point of view, it is worrying. Whether they keep it up, I don't know. I had reservations over how well they'd do this year because of the Europa League. And I thought, with the squad size they've got, can they go in the Europa League, like far in the Europa League and, do well in the Premier League? But they're doing it. They're doing well in the Europa League. They're 3rd in the league right now. I mean, it's that win away at West Ham for us is looking better and better by the week with the form that we've gone on since and the form that West Ham have gone on. So I don't think they're going to be in the top 4 come the end of the season, but they're going to be one of those teams like Leicester that just disrupt the top 6 enough to throw some surprise results like we saw yesterday.
I think their form also, what we forget is how well they're playing in Europe too, and how they're managing Thursday, Sunday. I think it's impeccable what they're doing. Again, just look at it from here. They're 3 points off of Chelsea, 23 points from their 11 Premier League games so far this season. They're setting club records at the moment with Moyes. Liverpool, that's their first defeat in 26 games. If they had won, they would have bettered their unbeaten run that they went on way back in the 1893. So Liverpool were hot on form. Graham, West Ham though on potentially hotter form at the moment if you take into account their European form as well. How far can West Ham go this season? Are you liking what you see from them?
I love it, and the 1 or even 2 players you haven't mentioned who are key to everything West Ham do, and this is a United need to take note is Declan Rice. Best, amazing. He's bordering, he's one of the best players in England at the moment. Alongside Thomas Souček, he got the perfect partner for him. They understand each other. But Declan Rice, for me, he should be, and United. He should be top of United's summer wanted list. United are in for him. They are one of the teams. I wouldn't have them down as favourites at the minute. I think he's more likely, from what I'm hearing, to be City bound. But I'd be doing everything I could, even ahead of a strike. Forget Haaland, etc. Rice is the one. If you got Rice into that team, obviously, if you've still got all these managers, it's pointless getting him in anyway because he wouldn't know what to do with him. But Declan Rice is so important to this West Ham team. His progression from 18 months ago to now has been scintillating. It's been absolutely fantastic. And unfortunately for West Ham, I don't think they'll keep him beyond the season. He's going to leave. He's going to go for 100, 120. He will be going. How they compete with it without him, lose a player of that quality will be a huge loss. But I think West Ham have got everything in them, as long as they've got a pretty thin squad when it comes to strikers and midfielders. It's hard to replace. I think they'll bring a striker in January. They are in the course of having a major investment from Daniel Kerstinsky, the Sparta Prague owner. He will make West Ham debt free. West Ham are going to be a different proposition for a lot of teams come January. He will be in. There'll be money available. West Ham will have a bigger stadium in London. They're becoming a real threat to this top six. And that's a huge worry to United. As Conor alluded to, all these teams around there. I think Tottenham finished fourth now. I think West Ham fifth. At best, you guys are struggling to finish sixth because of this form. I think West Ham, as long as Antonio doesn't get injured, as long as they don't suffer too many injuries, then I think they will be top 4, top 5.
I think we're definitely looking at City, Chelsea, Liverpool top 3. I don't think there's any arguments against that, but I agree. I think now the 4th, 5th, 6th places are massively up for grabs, and there's quite a few teams tinkering around that area. Manchester United being one of them because of their awful form, not because
I think Tottenham are favourites now, Ben. Tottenham are favourites for 4th place without a shadow of a doubt. Tottenham are favourites for 4th for me.
But then you've got West Ham, who are in fantastic form, and then, like you said, the resurgence of Tottenham with Conte that we expect to see after the international break and obviously the coming weeks. Before we answer that question properly, I know you've just sort of alluded on it, but I'll come to Conor and we'll have a chat as well. I've put in here who finishes 4th, 5th and 6th. Get in the comments of who you think finishes 4th, 5th and 6th this season if you're watching back later. Get in the live chat. Conor, before we do that, Arsenal 1, Watford 0. Arteta has got this Arsenal team on this unbeaten run at the moment. This just doesn't seem to end, does it? They're doing all right at the moment. They won 12 of 15 Premier League games against Watford, so we was expecting them to get the win. However, Ranieri's Watford side actually set up quite sternly and really stopped that Arsenal team from getting much when you look at chances and when you have a look at being able to create chances. So a good 3 points there for Arsenal in the end.
Yeah, I think what Arteta's done well in the last kind of few weeks is they've stopped conceding goals. Arsenal, their last loss, I'm just looking at here, was 5-0 loss to City on the 28th of August. That's how long ago you're looking at now. They've only drew 2 and then they've won the rest since then. But they're not conceding. Before that, Arsenal were always funny to have a laugh about and all these kind of things, because you always look at them and go, they're going to concede a lot of goals here. Look at them at the back defensively. That when they play the big teams, they're going to smack them 5 and 6 and all these kind of things. Now you're looking at them going, I mean, they didn't concede to Leicester. They probably should have. But didn't concede to Leicester, didn't concede to Watford, Leeds. 3-1 at Villa. I know they conceded 2 to Palace, but drew to Brighton, beat Spurs. They're on a really good run of form. And again, we're talking about 4th, 5th, and 6th. That's a worry for us as well. Arsenal now hitting form, and the players that Arteta has brought in seem to be working. I mean, they've got a whole new back line, so that helps. It seems to be that those 4 are working together quite well. When you've got good youngsters like Saka and Smith Rowe and players like that, their midfield looks good as well. They're just, again, I'm going to say this about every team we talk about, and it's very similar to Watford. They're a well-organised team. It's that key word that I keep saying. It's a team. They're not. Arsenal prior were playing as individuals. They were where we are now. Now they're not. Now Arsenal are playing as a full team. They've got a good system. You almost know how they're going to play. And even you could flip it around and say Watford. I mean, I don't think they were brilliant. They're back to the walls kind of thing, just hanging in there as long as they could. But what Ranieri has come in and done is shored them up a little bit. They've got some quality players, Watford with Sarr and Dennis, King's come in as well. They've got some good players, but it's just depressing looking at other teams being organised and drilled kind of thing, if you want to say that. And you look at us and we're the complete opposite.
I was going to say, last time I saw Watford set up like that and play like that was when they got battered by Liverpool. And it's like what you said, they set up like it, but they weren't resolute enough. So they got battered. They weren't playing for each other. Whereas Ranieri's come in, he's obviously got them together, knitted them better, a lot more finer in terms of a unit. And then that's what happens. You can start to see games out. You can start to create opportunities. They had a couple of opportunities as well, Watford. Let's not forget that. Maybe, yes, again, a bit of luck went their way. Obviously, Ben Foster saved a penalty. I hope he got that for YouTube to get a few views on it. But, ultimately, a goal disallowed. Ultimately, they were always in the game. And you need to be in the game. And they could have snatched a point there. Unfortunately didn't come, but in terms of Arsenal, it's a good 3 points, and I think maybe we learn a lot more about where Arsenal and Manchester United are at when they play each other in a couple of weeks' time, which again is a sad thing to say because where we should be is miles ahead of Arsenal, but we're not, and we've even got a tough task away at Vicarage at Watford before we play Arsenal, which is even more scary, by the way. I'm more worried about going to Watford than anything else because that result could define a heck of a lot. Graham, I said it earlier on, you sort of hit on yours, but let's just quickly do it, just very, very quickly. So top three probably more or less solved there. So who for you right now on form? Obviously, this can change. Right now on form, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Guys, say one thing about Arsenal. I think the reintroduction of Lacazette has been crucial to them.
Yeah,
he has brought that. What was missing from United, he's brought that spirit back, the not just the dynamism, but the aggression, which I think is one key aspect which is missing from United at the moment. Top 4, yeah, we know top 3, although I don't know in which order. 4th place will be Tottenham, 5th place West Ham, 6th place Leicester.
Garth has put, it's taken 2 years to finish in 8th for Arsenal's gone a 10-game unbeaten run. Calm down a little bit. They're on a good run at the moment. Garth, I understand what you're saying, but you can only beat the teams in front of you and you can only comment on the form that teams are on whilst they're in it. For instance, we could say that United have recently gone on an incredible unbeaten run that only ended a couple of weeks ago. So Watford away should be a doddle. It's just football doesn't work like that. It's going to be a very difficult game, which we need to work hard and win. So although I get the context to what you're saying, obviously we can only talk with how teams are currently performing. The past is the past, right? So we move forward and you make observations from what you know. And this is what we know at the moment. Connor, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Oh, Christ. If this sounds really bad. If we sack Ollie, we'll finish inside the top 4. And I hate saying that because ultimately, like I said, I don't like calling for managers we sack, but we're not going to finish in the top 4 because we're going to be up and down for the rest of the season. And like you said, there's other teams that are in better form. I can't see West Ham doing it. So if we sack Ollie, I think we'll finish 4th. I think Spurs 5th, Arsenal 6th. I think, I don't know. No, West Ham.
If you stick with Ollie, though, Connor, where are you finishing?
I'm going to get slaughtered for saying this. 6th. I think we'll drop completely out of it.
I'm sort of with you. I do understand what you're saying because I think even if United somehow miraculously pick up form again, I can see it dropping again. And ultimately, if it does drop again, you're in big trouble. You need someone to really come in and redecorate the ship or reinvent the ship to make it a heck of a lot sturdier and a lot more glamorous. And at the moment, I just feel like we'll be patching it up, and we are patching it up at the moment, but. Unfortunately, we're doing it in wet weather, and it keeps raining on the paint, and the paint keeps coming back down the wall. It's tough. I don't know. I don't know.
I'd say one thing, Ben, about January. One thing United have to be very careful about by sticking with Ollie. Mm-hmm. This January 2022 is going to go down in history for the free agent market. I did a piece of Planet Spot on the odds and the 1 to 11 you can put together. We know Mbappe is going to Madrid; he's off the market. But we've got Pogba, we've got Frank Kessie, you've got Antonio Rudiger. There's a lot of outstanding world-class talent available coming up. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is still in charge of Manchester United, and these deals can hinge on a few percent, if he's still there, you're going to miss out on some of these. Mm-hmm. You really are. Haaland first time around. So I think that is a consideration for the board as well. If you want to build for the future, if you've got a Poch, Zidane, whoever we can speculate, whether it's in January, it could help with the long-term future of the club in terms of transfers as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of players are going to move as well because I think Stu made this point in there about the World Cup being in the winter next year. A lot of players are going to move in January because they're going to want to play for their national side at the end of the year. They're not going to wait until the summer and have half a season to prove themselves. The likes of
deals will be done, Connie. Yeah, the deals will be done definitely. Like Pogba, whether we find out or not, I have no doubt Pogba will sign his new deal. Obviously, if it's United, we'll find out in January. But if it isn't, if it's anyone but United, he will sign it. Whether we find out or not, there'll be a lot of speculation. I think he will know. It's up to him whether to release it. I think if it isn't United, I think he'll have a lot of fun by not announcing it and will be a lot of speculation, as in PSG, Real, Juve, and United going forward. So, there's some huge, interesting issues coming in January, but one which comes back to the league form and the manager. Paul Pogba is telling all these world-class players. You think Frank Kessie is not talking to Paul Pogba about what it's like at United? Of course he is.
Mabuso's making me want to end this stream right now. He's mentioned the words Europa Conference League, which I just don't even want to think about. Shout out to you guys, by the way, in the live chat.
Imagine Ronaldo in the Conference League.
Oh, don't even.
It's good news that Arsenal are playing well, and you probably don't get it for finishing 8th, so you're all right, boys.
Well, I'd rather finish 10th, to be quite honest. I'm having a look here at some of the other scores that we haven't got long. We've got about 5 minutes where we've got to go. But Newcastle, you say good point away to Brighton, Graham, in context.
Because in their position, 1 point could play a huge. I said to you last week, Ben, I didn't think Newcastle were in trouble until I saw them last week. And boy, whoever takes over there, it's going to be Eddie Howe. They've got an awful fixture list as well. They could be almost down by January. It's that hard a fixture list, and they went bottom at the weekend, didn't they, as well? And yeah, it's a huge job on the hands there. They are going to improve in January, but it's going to be a huge job for Eddie Howe and his staff to keep them up because. They are not playing very well. But I think it could be a very big point coming into the season.
Maybe what we do, Graham, is next week we do more of like a this point in the season roundup, and we can talk a little bit more about Eddie Howe going into Newcastle and talk a bit more about the position some other clubs are in, because it'd be good to pick your brains on how that appointment's gone down, but we don't really have the time right now. Spurs have failed to register a shot on target in consecutive Premier League games for the first time since the 03-04 season. Connor, Graham thinks that Spurs are favourites to finish 4th, but how do Spurs get a shot on target? I think that's the first question to ask and answer.
Sack Conte. No, I mean they're gonna. The thing is, everyone expects when a new manager comes in that they're going to be firing straight away. It takes time to implement what Conte wants to do. It's different kind of style to the way that Nuno plays, so it's going to take time for them. How quickly that is, I don't know. It depends on the players. But when you've got, I mean, it's criminal, really, isn't it? You've got Son, Kane, and Lucas Moura playing with 2 good fullbacks as well, actually, or wing backs, and you don't get a single shot on target. I mean. So it's almost reminiscent to United, isn't it, with the attacking players? But I mean, they did play a good Everton side again. Everton, a decent team, and another team. I wouldn't be worrying about Everton though. They're kind of mid-table at best. But yeah, it's strange they didn't get a single shot on target. I know they had quite a few shots. I think they had about 8 shots or something like that. To not get a single shot on target, I think that just shows you the kind of shots they're having and the kind of areas they're taking them from. They're just not creating clear-cut chances, but give it a few weeks, months, probably. You will see some of these players start firing. And it is difficult as well when your star player, your number 9, is not really interested in being in the club anymore. So that's always a problem as well.
Your favourite player in the Premier League, Graham, Conor Gallagher, with another goal for Palace against a Wolves side that have got back into form. How impressed you with what the job Patrick Vieira's doing there, and a great win before the international break for them?
Yeah, we can't underestimate what a job he's done there. And changing the style of play, as we know, isn't easy. We've seen that. Nuno, etc. going in. So, yeah, hats off to him. I think Conor Gallagher is the sign of the season. No, we can't underestimate the impact he's made. It's absolutely criminal. He's not in the England squad. I just don't know what Gareth Southgate's looking at, to be honest. He's, for me, the best English player on form at the moment. And, yeah, it's wonderful. And, and it's all very well making these signs. You've got to make them fit. And I think Godson Edwards come down, look good. Benteke is getting a tune out of Matt Gay. The Chelsea, the ex-Chelsea centre-half. What an academy they've got, by the way. They haven't got room for Livramento, Mark Gee and Gallagher in their team, so they go elsewhere. It's frightening. But yeah, I think hats off to Vieira. He's done a wonderful job, and he's surpassed all expectations, especially for me so far.
So they're unbeaten in their last 6. Their last defeat was against Liverpool at Anfield. They've played Brighton, Leicester, Arsenal, City, and now Wolves in that run as well. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable from Patrick Vieira. The final game to mention, Connor, I'll let you end with fireworks here on what was a fireworks weekend. Leeds 1, Leicester City 1 in the most entertaining game of the Premier League season. It actually sounded like quite a good game, to be fair. I'm really playing it down. I mean, it's a point away from home for Rodgers and Leicester, but I think more importantly, it's a point for Bielsa. I think they needed that Leeds at home.
Yeah, Leicester are not in great form. Leeds probably needed it more than Well, no, I think both teams needed it. I've got a good friend who's a Leicester fan, and there's a lot of thing amongst Leicester fan base at the moment. They're in a weird kind of predicament because they've kind of been spoilt really in the last few years. Coming from nowhere, winning the Premier League, won the FA Cup. They've had a good run of trophies where prior to that they weren't really kind of involved in the kind of big time trophies, and now there's this kind of thing that you can't amongst the Leicester fan base that you can't criticize what you're seeing now. I think they're kind of stuck in between the should we be happy where we are, we've had a lot of success, or should we still be aiming for the top? I think they're kind of stuck in that level. They've got the team to be much higher up than they are. I think that back line, Johnny Evans coming back is key for them as well, because Solanke looks like a completely different player when he's not alongside him. That whole midfield again walks into any team, I think, or certainly walks into ours. And they've got a good forward line as well. You're looking at Barnes, Lookman they brought in. Perez on the bench. Patson Dak has been brilliant. I said when they signed him that he was going to be brilliant for them this year. So it's unfortunate for Leicester that it didn't get the win. I think they probably would have been going there expecting a win with the way that Leeds are this season. Leeds look one of the beatable teams in the league, despite the fact they can cause you problems on the break. But yeah, it was interesting when we were talking about the kind of 4th, 5th, and 6th. None of us mentioned Leicester. With the kind of form, they're not that far behind us. They're only 2 behind us. It's very, very tight from about 5th to I think it's about 12th. I think there's only 2-3 points in it. So if Leicester can hit some form, they could be a problem as well. I think with Leicester, as long as they can just stop conceding goals, they'll be fine. They've got the firepower to beat teams and control the game in midfield. They just need to stop conceding goals, and we'll see the Leicester that we know. And as for Leeds, it's just quite funny seeing them down the bottom. And if they get relegated, good riddance to them.
I would actually like to talk to you, Graham, as well about Rafinha, but we do that in a show maybe next week because again, he's a player turning 25 this Christmas, and he's a good talent, and you just wonder if maybe a move for him in the summer might be something that's on the cards. Wonderful free kick from him.
The one thing about Leicester I would say is Fofana is scheduled to come back in early New Year. Yeah. I think he for me is the best young defender in Europe, and Leicester have missed him so much. And once he comes back, I think United, Leicester are a real threat. I think I'd have been 6th or something, but they're a real threat once they get. I say that defense, their whole team was built on that, wasn't it? With Solanke doesn't look the same without Evans being there regularly and Fofana. But I think if we get Fofana back, Leicester will be a real danger because they've got the squad and they've got the manager. It just hasn't quite clicked, has it?
100%. Well, look, we'll do a bit more of a review next week on the season so far. Make sure you join us for that on the weekend review. For now, though, we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Graham, as always, at Graham Bailey on Twitter. Thank you, Connor, as always, DJ Connor Roberts, if you want to go and give him a follow. I'm at Ben Pierce Talks, and I'll talk to you next week, I promise. We've got loads of content coming up this international break, so do not miss out on that. And stay safe wherever you are, and keep smiling, Reds. It's the international break, and not usually do I say that smile on an international break because I bloody hate them, but I think it's come at the right time, unfortunately. Take it easy, guys. Stay safe. Hit a like on this video and comment on the talking point. Speak to you in a bit.